With now go.
Hi everyone, here with Canine Therapy, and I am here with Amanda. Of Amanda Richer is her YouTube channel. We're both streaming live right now, and we want to ask everybody, if you like our channels, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channels. And if you want to receive future notifications of any lives that we're doing or any videos that we're doing, hit the little bell that's next to the subscribe button, and you'll get notifications via email and so on and so forth. So I wanted to talk to Amanda today about her dog, Rowan, who is sitting right over sleeping. Rowan, there she is. You guys see her? The lighting's not that good. We tried to get this started earlier, but I got held up at a client's house with their rowdy puppy. So the light is starting to go down, but we're going to do the best that we can. So I think I've got us both in.
Yep.
So Amanda, I wanted to ask you some questions about, okay, let's start at the beginning. So last year at this exact time, you were not in this beautiful apartment.
No. No.
So tell me where you were living.
At the time, last year at this time, I was living under a bridge over by Beacon Hill in an area called the Jungle.
The Jungle.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Jungle, for those of you not part of the Seattle area, I've never been to the Jungle yet. I'm probably going to go soon. But it has a lot of notoriety here in Seattle. It's very famous for being, there were some really unfortunate things that happened. Maybe a year or so ago, there was some murders that took place, and but the Jungle's been there for over a century.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was actually the point I made when we were swept at Eastlake. I said we have to move anyway. We have to move somewhere where people can't find us and see us, where we're not going to bother them. Otherwise, we're going to get swept all the time.
And describe what sweeping is when you get swept.
Sweeping is where the city decides that they are going to clear an encampment of people because they believe it's posing a threat or posing an imposition really on site. And they don't want people getting comfortable. They don't want people building communities out of tents. And it's a way to keep people moving. It's a way to promote public relations within the community by saying that we're cleaning things, but not really solving a problem.
Right.
And when we were swept, that was a point I brought up, is that they had just swept the Jungle as well recently and put a lot of people in jail. And there were, like you said, some unfortunate incidences. So everybody was a little worried, but I was like, okay, they're all gone now. They arrested everybody. So let's get good people up in there and change the scope of this.
Okay. And I promise we are going to talk about dogs and dog training. But I just want to set the stage. Hi, everybody. I just want to set the stage. What you just said is something that the more I've gotten involved with you and the more education that you've done, there is a perception. When you said, let's get good people up in there, you guys in your camp, you were kind of the head mom of the camp. And you guys were not doing drugs. And there is a perception that mentally ill, drug abuse, homeless is all the same. It's interchangeable.
And a lot of us were physically ill. Okay. There was definitely trauma and there was definite reasons to be out there. But no, our camp were people who were in recovery and coming up and trying and doing their best to survive and really come up. So yeah, there were definitely challenges and struggles. And I would say that physical and mental illness are trauma based. It doesn't matter if you're homed or homeless, you have that when you've undergone trauma, it hits you.
And I always think of all of us as being on a spectrum. I mean, we all have our issues, right?
Yes, for real, though.
We're all a little bit, somewhere on the spectrum of not being mentally ill and or being mentally ill. Now, you had, when you came to Seattle, you came up from Louisiana?
I had left Louisiana actually April 1st of 2016. I left Louisiana and left a bad relationship that I was in. And I had to get help. I had to get real brain injury treatment. I was not doing well. And so I went up to Montana first, and my family is very scattered. And so one of my half brothers had offered to at least get me in to see a neurologist and things like that. And my half sister had taken me in after that for a few months, and it just was not a living environment. I still wasn't going to be stable there. That was not an option.
And you weren't getting the treatment that you needed there.
No, I needed much more treatment, and it was just it wasn't a good environment for me. And my son had also left Louisiana because it was a pretty dysfunctional situation on all levels, and he was homeless in Seattle. And so we both knew I needed to be there for brain injury treatment. Like, this was our goal.
Because you have a traumatic brain. You have multiple traumatic brain injuries.
I'm a 5-time traumatic brain injury survivor. And so we knew I needed to come here. So that was like our plan when we left Louisiana. That was all along. We're going to make it to Seattle. Come high water, whatever. We're going to make it to Seattle.
And to get here, like, you literally, did you hitchhike or you caught rides?
Yeah, I hitchhiked. It was really, when I left Montana, I left and hitchhiked over here. And it was one guy gave me a ride. He was amazing. This just amazing human being gave me a ride over and dropped me off. And I remembered like a street that my son had given me at one point when we were talking on the phone. And so I had him drop me off at Aloha and Eastlake, I think. And I knew the bridge was somewhere around there, but I ended up wandering. I only had my camera, my Nikon. I only had my Nikon, and I didn't have any phone, nothing, just what was on my back. And I just, by word of mouth, I hit the streets and just started asking. 3 hours later, he was on the phone and he met me at camp.
Your son. Yep. You were trying to find your son.
Yep. And it was just by word of mouth. I didn't know anybody here. There was no one to call. I didn't have any access to anything. I was dropped off at 8 o'clock at night.
Okay. Well, this is such a remarkable story, because you came here after doing research to find a facility that would be able to give you the medical care that you needed for your brain injuries and the seizures that you were experiencing.
Yeah, I was stabilized in Montana with that. I went to see a wonderful neurologist in Montana. But Montana's not a place that you can wait homeless. You can't survive. And when you don't know family or you don't have those family connections, living with somebody you don't know who has a whole nother view, it's not a stable environment. And especially if you're overcoming brain trauma, there's a sense of having to have your own space and your own autonomy. And so even I was stabilized on the seizures in Montana. And then when I came over, that's where I was stabilized on a whole level. They really got me into care. Like, I had a social worker that immediately was like, okay, primary care, here's the rest of the issues we need to sort out, and kept me hanging on, because it doesn't matter what list you're on. It's going to take a while. A year and a half is a short amount of time to get housing. I was on the list immediately, but it's a triage system. And, there are, as sick as I was at my worst, there's still people 10, 20 times sicker.
Okay. And so that's how you got here. It was less than a year ago. That, like, in January, February, you got this apartment.
February, I believe, is when it was. Yeah.
And you got off the streets.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, let's go back to Rowan, who's the star today. Hi, sweetheart.
The beautiful Ro. Hi.
And so tell me how you got her.
Okay. It came about that a couple of my street kids, they had me watch her first. he was getting a job, so he was going to have a hard time taking care of her. And he was having a difficult time handling her anyway. A lab puppy is full of energy, full of, mischief, and they want to do their thing. It's just like what I call her when she was a puppy is, it's like having an ADHD toddler, like just insane energy. And so, just with the trauma that they had experienced, they were having a hard time coping with that, and being able to meet her initial needs, food, water, etc. So I took her for a month, and they asked me if I wanted to have her, and I was like, absolutely, take her in a heartbeat. And she'd already been kind of leashed to me, and she'd been taught basic commands: sit, shake.
So how old was she when you first started taking care of her?
Little under 6 months.
A little under 6 months. And so right when you first started taking care of her, you tethered her to you.
Yep, absolutely.
And she went everywhere you went.
Everywhere. There, you don't leave your dog.
She won't be there when you get back.
Right. There were a couple times where, if, like, say I was sick and I couldn't leave camp for a couple days, if I was staying there, Austin or Gypsy would take her with the other dogs so that she could get time out and, her exercise. But other than that, your animal becomes a part you're a part of each other.
You're like an appendage.
Yes. A service dog services you. You need that. You have them near you for a reason. They are an extension of yourself with their own being, which sometimes makes it a little difficult, because you're not always going to agree on, who wants to listen today. And, but honestly, she was pretty easy to train. She wasn't, she really, if I can balance the time with her, give her her playtime, it doesn't matter how much she's working, she still needs time to be a dog.
You've got some people on chat. Can you guys hear us okay? I just want to check the sound. If somebody could type in if you can hear us, because Amanda, her voice was kind of going down in volume. So I just want to make sure that people can hear us.
Being lashed to her was the key in training her. I'm going to be honest. Getting her to know who I was, that she was safe, but that I was also a leader. She needed that. It was a key in having her meet my needs. Was having her learn with me and learn how to be her person, her safety, her, to where I was dependable for her as well.
Right. So that's a really key point. I talk to a lot of people call about wanting to, how do I train my service dog? How can I train my service dog? And the first thing I tell people is dog has to be with you all of the time and literally tethered to you, like you're saying, being on the leash and going everywhere. If you go to the bathroom, the dog should come with you. I mean, just everywhere. The dog just moves as an appendage to you so that they learn just everything that's going on. And dogs are so observant. They know more about us than we know about ourselves. And they know what, I swear, I tell people all the time, they know what day it is in the middle of the night. If you're going to work, and it might be 2 a.m, but based on our sleep patterns, our blood pressure, our fidgeting and our sleep and all that stuff, they can tell compared to the day before when you had to go to work and now we don't have to go to work today or whatever. They just can sense that something's different.
When I first got her serviced, my doctor first, we got her I had her as serviced as a service animal. That was one thing my doctor noticed is my seizures. She was responding. I was having trouble. And she's like, does she do that often? I'm like, yeah. Well, I was also getting an infusion, which for my arthritis, and
What's doing that?
I didn't realize that I wasn't feeling well, and my blood pressure had dropped. And Rowan started, and she never does, she was whining and trying to get the nurse's attention and nudging me. And they came and took my blood pressure. My blood pressure was dropping. Like she has this amazing, intuitive part of her that alerts me to things I don't realize.
Right.
And as we go, the thing about service animals is there's not just one duty they're trained in. You're training them forever. As your conditions go, you're going to be consistently training them in new activities. Standing up right when you need your balance. A lot of dogs, it's common to put your hand on a dog's back and they sit. To stand there while you try to get up, to be your balance because you're having trouble, takes training. That's another thing that she does. And there's some really, really special things that you have to do.
Okay, they're saying that they can hear us loud and clear, so that's
Okay.
good.
Good. So having her train me to her needs, it's like, okay, how she'll respond best. I know that there are times where she does not want to listen. She does not want to be going in somewhere. She does not want to be that. So she's like, I'm not listening. There's nothing you can tell me. I'm going to do this or whatever. And pulling hurts me. It can, hurts my shoulders. I can't deal with it. It'll cause back problems. So when she's pulling and I'm like, stop pulling, there's warnings there. Finally, I just take her, make her sit, get all the way on the ground, and we wait there until she gets her head together. And being that firm voice, like I have told people in the medical, because everybody always wants to ask, like, hey, she's wonderful for a young lab. She's amazing. And they always ask, and I'm like, sometimes you have to be the asshole to the beautiful lab with the golden eyes. You can't be afraid to be firm.
That's a key point. So,
firm.
I call it drawing a line in the sand that you will do this and you won't do that. And I love how candid you were in saying that, because sometimes you can't be 100% politically correct, and sometimes you need to grab the dog and say, you will sit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is it's very important, especially when you have a dog that's in the city. Rowan has had so many instances of like little dogs biting her face when she goes to sniff them and they do their mating thing. So now she tends to be very aggressive walking up to little dogs. Her mohawk goes up. The thing is I have to be able to trust our relationship, me and her, enough to when she lunges, I can grab her muzzle and say no, and I don't get bit. I'm not hurting her. She's not hurting me. But there's a trust enough to where she knows I can take her harness and push her to the ground and be like, that's enough. And we're done. The thing I think people think of is there's a difference between abuse and being forceful or asserting yourself in the dog world. They want to be able to be led. You have to be the leader.
This is a really, really key point, everybody. Dogs need leadership. They instinctively, they have to have leadership, or they will instinctively have to, not their choice, but they will have to take leadership, because that's how they are. That's how they roll. That's how dogs have been for eons, centuries, whatever. So it's so important that if you have a dog, you have to be their leader. Super, super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And they need to know where they stand with you as far as boundaries. What are you going to allow?
Draw the line in the sand.
For example, the other day I had a misbehavior out of Miss Rowan. Me and Liz had gone to the gym next door. Rowan's usually amazing. Problem with the gym is it's right next door and she can hear me, which means that there's a room that she can't get to that I'm in. She decided to get into the garbage. This doesn't happen in my household. Never had an issue with this. So I immediately growled at her and make myself big, walk her over to her thing and
You
tell her,
became large and in charge. Those
yes,
of you who
yes.
know me, that's one of my favorite sayings. You have
Assert
to be large
myself,
and in charge.
move up on her, and just, that's it. You sit there. Now, this is not okay. And each time I picked something up, made sure that, for her. And then afterwards, when we got through that, okay, you sat there the whole time. Now you can get up and you get love. Positive reinforcement after. When they do the right thing, they need to know what the right thing is too. And when they do the right thing, that's love, 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 love. And honestly, what I found is positive reinforcement will work quicker than treats. I love the
Such a
treats.
good point.
Rowan loves treats. Believe me, she will eat them all. But positive reinforcement, love, getting on her level and just loving her when she does the right thing, she strives to make me happy.
Labrador retrievers and golden retrievers and even pit bulls. I mean, most of the pit bulls that I've worked with, they're so eager to please. There's so many breeds that are super, super eager to please. And you don't need treats. You just need to let them know, that's so exciting. You did what I wanted you to do. And they will do it for the pleasure of pleasing us.
Yes, absolutely. Rowan's best days are when she's just getting, she likes that love. And when we work on exercises in the house because we don't live in a tent anymore. So, yes, exactly.
I love that.
But we still work on body awareness exercises. She is a larger dog with a big, huge otter tail, one of them thick tails. So we have to work on not knocking things over, being careful with your body, knowing where your body is in relation. We're going to the hospitals around people that are walking with canes or walkers, or she needs to know where she is in relation to everything else. So we set up boundaries or things up in the car, around the room, and I throw her toys and she jumps through without touching them. And when she does it, immediate praise. If she knocks something over, oh, hey, she immediately looks at me, and then she really, I'm not yelling or anything else. I'm just like, oh, and that is enough. In our communication, I don't, other people communicate differently. For me, any kind of sound out of me that's like, oh, she's like, oh, what's up,
and so this is a great point too that I want to point out. I say to people all the time, the road to a great dog leads right through your living room. Mm-hmm. And so you're actually doing drills.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And hide and seek. That is something for her that's really stimulating, I have her sit and I go around the apartment and I hide her toys in different places and then get her time to find them. And, increasingly in difficulty as she goes. And it works her mind, her body, and keeping her stimulated and keeping her knowing that she's servicing, she's providing a service, she's still working. That gives her purpose and she loves that. Like she gets a lot of positive reinforcement out of that. And it keeps her sharp.
So you're not having to load her in your truck and drive out 2 hours to go do special like hunting training. You're mentally stimulating her right here in your apartment. Mm-hmm. And what were you doing when you were in your tent?
The tent was rather easy because she was raised in a tent. She was a homeless dog before I got her. Uh-huh. So she had that kind of awareness as it was. The thing I think Rowan would like better is that we had trails and things and other camp dogs. So she had her pack that she ran with. And when we lived out in the jungle, they could run in this area and all the dogs knew their boundary. It was just a really beautiful thing. And so I think she probably misses all the outdoor, activities she got because we're definitely not on that level anymore.
Right.
But I think that, she definitely smells better now. And she loves the comfiness. Like she is a dog for just being comfy.
She moved. And she's actually right behind me. There she is, lounging on her pillows against the wall.
But here's something I said when I got her too. I knew that she'd been abused. And like I told everybody in camp, she is going to have a life, even if she doesn't have tons of material stuff, she is going to know every single day she's loved. I will tell her every single day she's amazing and beautiful and worth everything in the world. And I think that you have to do, they're a part of you, and you have to believe that they're your family.
And this is something that oh my gosh, what a great point. Because as a dog trainer, and I'm not really a dog trainer, I'm really a people trainer. Training the dogs is so easy. But I can't tell you how many times I have heard about or seen, visited with people that got a dog 5 years ago and they had trouble, so they just kept isolating the dog and pushing the dog away. And they live in a castle, or they live in $1 million house in Issaquah. All the houses in Issaquah are close to $1 million for just a tract home, but nevertheless, they're beautiful homes. And I call them poor little rich dogs, because because you have money and resources, but you isolate the dog and you push the dog away, it's not.
There, I know our laws, and if you look, and this is something I brought up is a while ago to one of my friends. I was like, throughout history, when you look at conquerors, we compare vulnerable people to animals because we put them at such a low stature that we will compare a negative thing. We put a negative connotation on it, but they're not objects. They're beings, and they need to feel love. They have a social being.
Mm-hmm.
They will get sick. They will die without love. It's just the way it is. And so I think if we're going to have an animal, we need to understand that mm-hmm. It isn't a purse.
Well,
it isn't a TV. It isn't a couch.
Because dogs are pack animals. And mm-hmm. I tell people all the time, don't put your puppy in a crate in the garage while you're sleeping on the top story of your house. They're pack animals. They will become very fearful and mm-hmm. very depressed if they're isolated. They cannot be isolated. It is absolutely so important to keep your dog.
Too.
Yeah. It's like, and dogs that are born. There's several rescue groups that are bringing dogs up from Texas, and and in Texas, it's a little different than it is up here. I mean, dogs run loose; they're not spayed.
Oh, Louisiana was horrible.
Louisiana is right next to Texas, so go figure.
Yeah, horrible.
But it is when dogs are born in a culvert under the road, because nobody gives a rat's patootie about them, and the mother raises them. And then when they're 4 weeks old, the puppies are starting to kind of run around and they get up on the road. And then somebody stops because there's puppies running around. By that time, you're always going to have a feral dog. I worked with so many dogs that were obviously feral. We're never going to be able to bring that dog up to a level compared to a dog that was raised and held and been around people. It's just not going to happen. Kind of like orphanages.
Yes, that's children. It. I was just about to bring that up. That's a lot like foster care. That's a lot like the orphanages. That's a lot like that. Is when your training, in your environment matters so much. And how often do you have to get bit before you learn? And for them, how often do they have to get abused, yelled at, screamed at, things thrown at them, people not caring, starving to death, before they start attacking as well?
Right.
And they're not, I think another thing people don't understand, these are not wild animals. These are domesticated animals. There's difference in species. And they are just not able to handle the outdoors like that, like a wolf or a coyote or what people like to equate domesticated dogs with wild dogs, but it is not the same. And they don't have the same immune systems. They don't have, those dogs are sick.
A dog that's been bred to have a job and to work with people, that dog is going to suffer greatly. If, like you said, they're going to get sick, they're going to be sad, they're going to be depressed, they're going to be fearful if they don't have what they need. So they need more different things than a wolf. But even a wolf or a coyote lives in a pack, and so they get what they need. So
they still need each other, and
they need each other.
Yeah, and you can't take the habitat of an animal away. And domesticated dogs, their habitat is homes. That's their habitat. Their habitat is not the wild. And you can't take their homes away and expect, just like a human being, that they're going to be healthy,
right,
and well adjusted,
right.
And we don't want packs of dogs hunting in our cities or our towns.
And a lot of times if there is a bunch of dogs that have been just tossed away as refuge, they will start hunting. But I can't tell you how many times we've seen dogs that have been just dumped out of somebody's car out at Fort Lewis, which is like it's about 100,000 acres of just open prairie and forest down south of Tacoma. And people dump dogs there all the time. They even dump horses. And I don't know what people are thinking. Like, just at least take the dog to the shelter. I'm not recommending that, but compared to just dumping them out of your car, that's just awful. But anyway, that's not really what we're talking about. Let's get back to the star here, Rowan. So what kind of challenges are you still having with Rowan?
The biggest challenge I have with Rowan right now is socialization with other dogs that have been in homes their entire lives. There is a way that dogs approach one another, and especially on leash. And you'll get a lot of on leash aggression because us as human beings, and now I do the same thing because I have to watch her. They pull their dog. Dogs meet and they arc each other. It's just a polite way of saying hello and dog. People, we don't do that. We reach out, shake hands. They're not like that. To come head on at each other is aggression. And so she was raised with a bunch of other dogs. So she is aware of this. Whereas a lot of these dogs that have been left at home while somebody's working or are just out on their evening walk come about as a very, very aggressive or very loud, and Rowan, I have a hard time with her right now. We're working on impulse control so that even when she sees that, she can still stay in place. And she's actually doing really well. And I'm really happy with the training that she is. That's our main thing right now, I think, is impulse control. Really working on the impulse control. As far as any other thing that she's trained, as far as like stairs and balance and
Pop, 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 pop. Hey, cutie pie.
She's so adorable. She just is so easy. She's the best.
Her Christmas collar on.
Yes, she does. Her jingle collar.
So when I came in, and she's getting to know me because I've been in the apartment several times, and I smell like dogs, and I'm proud of that. So y'all just, but she barks at me when I come in, and just right over here against the wall, she has a little dog bed. And what is it? You say, take it down?
Yeah, take it down here.
And kick it down. Yep. And she knows to go over to her bed, which I call place training, but she goes over to her bed and she lies down. And when we've gone to a restaurant, she comes in and you say the same thing. Yep. And you point under the table, and under the table she goes. No kisses.
Yeah, and that's really wonderful is, and sometimes we get a lot of flack at restaurants because she doesn't, for some reason, people think that service dogs wear service dog vests, but anybody can buy those. And they're really expensive. I mean, it's not something that, she can have a cute pink sweater for way cheaper. So I go with a cute pink sweater. And they'll say stuff like, we don't allow pets here. And it's like, number one, just ask if she's serviced. Rowan's, she goes right under the table. Most people, if they don't see her come in, they never even know that she's there.
Right.
She's amazing. She knows her place. And there's a difference from when she's outside walking on the sidewalk and things like, we're not going to give kisses.
Yes,
she's like, hi, I love you. I love you.
Yeah. You wanted to eat me a little while ago. Yeah.
And so she calms right. It's like, as soon as she knows we hit, she's working. And that's one way to get her to behave every time is you're working. That's enough. That's the command that tells her, this isn't playtime. We're not going to the park. We're not chilling. You're working.
And that's a really good point to bring up too, because
like right now, she's like, okay, I'm working.
So when we have our dogs doing a job, it's we're showing up at the office and we're doing business and we're not kidding around.
Yep.
That doesn't mean we don't love our dogs. Doesn't mean we don't sleep with our dogs, kiss our dogs on the lips.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's something I remind people about all the time too. So I was just working with one of the owners of one of the Tina puppies, and he is just a little over 5 months. And oh my gosh, the dog, even their like 10-year-old lab was going berserk when I showed up there, and they were just so out of control. And I've been using the example of Amanda with clients lately to kind of hold this up. You can have the fanciest equipment, you can pay for expert help with training, but if you don't show up and be present with your dog, you are not going to get results. So there are tools, there are protocols out there that I use to help people really get things going on the right track with even a super aggressive dog. But I always interview my prospective clients, which are the people, to make sure that I believe that those people are going to be able to change their behavior and do things differently, starting as soon as we get going with training. So you would be a perfect client, but perfect clients don't need my help. So anyway, it's kind of ironic. But yeah, so, and even people who leave their dogs because they have to go to work, I mean, reality is reality.
Right, absolutely. And there's definitely nothing that, that's not, the thing is even if you have, but it's the same thing, you still have to spend time focused on that individual.
Right.
Not just time there around the animal, time with the animal. Time spending being present with that animal. We get on the floor and play. She has got a pile of toys over here that that keep her hey, enough with the kisses, that keep her busy and happy and fulfilled, because she needs a satisfied, happy life as well. And she needs me to not just go out and work with her and not just to do that stuff. She needs me to stimulate her on a play level, on a you matter as a being.
Right.
I'm spending time with you, not just around.
So examples of that, I mean, you're hiding things for her to find, and you're doing different things. Other examples are just a tug, and you don't even need money. Like, you just get an old towel and tie a knot in it, and you can play tug with that. And they love it. A lot of people who are training hunting dogs are very opposed to playing tug with their dogs, but I haven't had any problems. And in fact, some dogs that I'm trying to find the key to motivate them for proper fetch training and all that, there's been a few dogs that really, really like tug, and that was their reward for doing.
Rowan loves tug. Rowan absolutely loves tug. And the reason I didn't play tug with her when she was a puppy, when she was real little. Now, as she's gotten older, the reason I started that was she has to be very careful of my hands. My blood vessels blow. Like, just a quick hit can make my whole hand hurt. So I needed her to not, when we're playing, get me with her teeth. She's not going to mean to do it hard, but even a small can do that. By playing tug, I move my fingers up in while she's immediately released. She knows what the difference in feeling is. We work with mouth work. What are the different feels so that she's not, when we do play those games, she's still learning. We're both just, like consistently working on different, when we're playing tug, I pull up and when she's like, walk up on her so that she knows to move back, but give her the command, move back.
Move back. What you're doing there is you're using spatial pressure.
Yep.
And that's a really, really great thing to do. There's all kinds of ways to put pressure on a dog, and spatial pressure is one of the best methods. So.
Own your space. That's, and teach her to do
and be large and in charge.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing, be the boss, and I don't mean that and I think some people take, that's, be be a good leader. That, I guess that's a better way of saying it. Be a good leader.
It's not a slave relationship at all. It's not like I'm the master and you're the slave. It can't be like that.
I apologize to her all the time because I was like, I'm sorry. Society has not advanced to the point where, and I'm not wearing the collar, you are. I mean, but I'm sorry about it. Like, this is just where we're at right now in life. And this is what you need to be safe. And I know this has got to be the most irritating thing because I thought about it, like having somebody just, like, nope, we're doing this today, every day, my way.
But dogs are very, they're instinctively, they need that and they want that direction.
They do. It's more studies that they've done has proven that praise from their human and doing what their human wants creates just serious, like the reward circuits just light up.
Yeah.
And
somebody said to me one time, there's a reason during the 9/11 trade towers collapse when they were searching the ruins for survivors and then unfortunately for remains. There's a reason they were using dogs and they weren't using monkeys or cats or elephants. They were using dogs because dogs they're such team players and they need that. So we're going to go to the chat and look through. But go ahead and do that. But I want to remind everybody, I said this morning when I put up just a little short, my very first YouTube live from my cell phone. If you want to hear more about Amanda's story, there's an excellent documentary. Part of that documentary has actually been on ABC, NBC?
I think it was on Dateline. Yeah, there was just like a snippet or something.
It was just a little part. But if you want to see the whole documentary, which isn't super long, but Mark.
Yeah, they can go into, if you just type in, it doesn't even matter. If you type in Amanda Richer, it'll come up with that.
Okay. So type Invisible People is Mark's YouTube channel.
Yep. Invisible People, and that is Mark Horvath.
Yeah. So that's actually how I came in contact with Amanda in the first place, is I saw this woman living under a bridge with a chocolate lab and meeting him and doing these amazing things. And I was like, I have to meet this woman. So
I want to thank you for helping so much to keep it going and just help provide people. You have been like on it.
Well, I have learned so much.
Good job.
I've only been out doing homeless outreach a few times now. But one time I told Amanda, I'm putting my big girl panties on and I'm going to go out by myself. And I went out in downtown, kind of near Pioneer Square, and it was pouring down rain. And I had these big heavy bags because I had food and I had some stuff to give away. And the first people I encountered were these 3 African-American men that were sitting in a doorway. And before I met Amanda, I would have crossed the street and not looked at them and been very, very afraid. And after working with Amanda, I just walked right up to them. I had no fear and they didn't sense any fear. And I asked them if they needed any food, and they were very grateful. And the older man was probably in his 70s, and he actually fished an apple out of the bag and put it back in my big bag because he couldn't eat it because he didn't have teeth.
And that's a huge problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a huge problem, but it was touching that the guy had that much, just
people don't take things they don't need. It's crazy. They really don't. They'll pass it up
if they don't like it or they don't want it or they don't need it. So that's really awesome.
It is, and you find just such amazing kindness out there between everybody as well.
Well, and then the other day I was on my way here. And I stopped. It had just gotten dark, and I stopped down on 4th Street, and it was right when the game was getting to be over. So the streets were blocked off, and it was really hard to navigate. I was trying to get back to an RV where I had met somebody that needed something, and I was having trouble getting to her. But they finally cleared the streets, and I was able to get in there, and I kind of pulled over, put my hazard flashers on, and this woman who had been at the game, and she was decked out in Seahawks 12's gear, literally from her head with her hat all the way down to her shoes were Seahawks gear. It must have been $500 or $1,000 worth of Seahawks gear that she was wearing. And she had walked all the way down there from the stadium, which was probably, I don't know, like a mile or a mile and a half, because she was drunk and she couldn't find her car, and she wanted me to give her a ride. And I was busy, and I kind of said, well, maybe I can do it, but I need to do this first. And she told me where she thought her car was parked. And I said, well, I think that's over there, but let's ask these guys. And there were tents behind my truck. So I said, let's ask these guys. And she was like, and she was kind of hiding behind my truck. And I just stepped out and I said, do you guys need any food? And there, a young woman came out of the tent, and she wanted food, and she was really hungry. Like, she started eating right away. And I said, do you guys know where 3rd and Occidental, or I don't remember the exact address where her car was parked, but she didn't really know. But she asked around, and the homeless people told the lady who was drunk how to get back to her car. And then luckily a guy on a bicycle, they have these bicycle like taxis that have a big seat in the back, and they take people places in them. And luckily one of those guys came along and whisked her off into the dark. And I was like, phew. It was, I thought, what universe am I in? Because here's the rich lady that can afford to go to the game and wear all this gear, and she's out here hiding behind my truck, afraid of the homeless people who are not even drunk. And it was
right? They're just hungry, and they're gonna help her anyway, because that's the human beings that they are. Because the thing is once you've known that, and I used to joke in the bridge, because there's a rock gravel floor and you got the bridge above you, you're in between a rock and a hard place.
That's great.
But in that, you develop this amazing compassion for others, and even if they think the worst of you, you gotta have faith in yourself and those around you.
Okay, so you've got
let's address some of this. Okay, so hi everybody. Question: how does she train dogs to work with wheelchairs?
One of my very first clients came to me and asked for help. He's not quadriplegic, but he has limited use of his hands. He can drive, but he broke his back in a car accident when he was a teenager, and so he's been in a wheelchair pretty much his whole adult life. And he had this beautiful pit bull, sweetest dog, but she would, if he ever dropped the leash, she would just kind of wander out of his reach. And so anyway, he came and asked me for help again about 10 years later when he got another pit bull. And you just work with them. Like, you just go out there and you work with them and you teach them to come back and to stay with you, and it's the dog's responsibility to look out for where we're walking. And it's the dog's responsibility to look out where the wheelchair is going. And they just learn. They're really, really smart.
They are.
It's teaching the people that's hard, not the dogs.
Right. Rowan did seem to have an issue with wheelchairs and walkers for a while. And I think it has to do with the not understanding of the equipment, because it wasn't the person she was upset with. It was the equipment. And we had a lot of that on the neurological floor And so it definitely is training them that it's not a danger, because they're not understanding why there's something metal, I don't know if it looks like it's attacking somebody or whatever, but she had an issue of that particular canes, walking equipment, wheelchairs, and she did have to get like enough of the nice people that are like, oh, here, and then let her sniff around and find that it's not a danger to me.
Right. And there are classes, and there is a certification for a therapy dog if you're going to be taking your dog into a hospital setting where they actually work with the dog to desensitize them to wheelchairs and walkers and things like that. But in your case, you were going there anyway, and so she just got exposure to it over time.
And I just know that how to work with fear. You be gentle about it. Don't. She was not understanding what the situation was. She needed to understand it's not something to be afraid of.
Right.
It's not. I'm right here. I got your six. I got you. It's okay. We'll sniff it together, and it's gonna be all right. And then we're gonna go, and we're gonna sit down, and you're gonna see that you sniffed it and nothing happened, that everything is calm, everything is good. And walking her through that.
It's important that the person with the therapy dog has the wherewithal mentally to be able to be large and in charge. And you don't have to stand up to do that. It's really just an attitude. But if somebody has such a huge disability that they're not able to project the right energy onto the dog, then it's important for somebody else in the family or whatever to be able to step in and take that leadership role.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what else here. Looking to do my own private outreach in my community. Thank you for inspiring stories. Happy New Year. That's wonderful. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Are there any other questions at this time that anybody has?
Can you scroll up?
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot
Let's see here. Okay. Hello. Many sweeps were chopping up tents and smashing property. Yep.
Yeah,
that is the truth. They are putting out now, and I haven't worked with the NAB team in a while, and they're putting out now that they're not doing that, and that there's rules and regulations, and they've had sensitivity training. But there's a lot still wrong with that whole scenario, and that I'm just not okay with. And every time they do it, we have to replace life-saving supplies.
As a person who just started doing this, it is so frustrating to come up with the money to buy people a tent and then know that the next week the tent is going to get bulldozed into a pile. And it's just like, it's so frustrating.
It is. Yeah, well, she's adorable. I know Rowan is adorable. She is too perfect. Hello, are you on camera? What's up? Happy New Year. Thank you. I'm glad you all are enjoying this topic. It's an important topic to talk about. Happy New Year's. Okay. How did I train her? Were you ever afraid your pup was going to run away or get hit by a car while I was unhomed? Was I ever worried about that? Every day. Every day I was terrified that something was going to happen. Someone was going to take her. I had a horrible experience, and it was totally my bad. Right after we moved to the jungle, and there was a way up to the freeway, and Rowan had not learned her boundaries yet. And this was after I'd had her for quite a while, and I was doing something in the tent, and so she wasn't leashed to me. And by the way, that's how you train them, is when I say lash to you, I literally mean all the time. You have a leash, you have a belt band, or you have something that wraps around you, and you have a carabiner, and you lash your dog to you. When you walk, when you sleep, when you go places, your dog is with you 24/7. And the only time that kind of gets relaxed would be at camp where there's boundaries. Well, Rowan hadn't learned yet. We were very new. And we hear from up there, the other dogs were playing, and I thought she was with them. And a guy goes, "Do you guys have a chocolate down here?" And I was like, Oh my gosh. And that was it. Luckily he had asked, otherwise Rowan would have been loaded up and gone. That's the only time. And after that, she's with me. And then, you know, other than like when I was in pediatric ICU with Arista, there are certain situations to where you can't bring your service dog. And
But as sad and horrific as that situation was, the good thing is by that time you did have a place to leave her, which is here.
Yeah, and Gypsy was right on that. Gypsy came right over, one of my other campmates, and was right there and had things taken care of.
So right here in my working at the urban rest stop.
We did encounter aggressive service dogs, which were always welcome. Socialization is important in training. They have priceless value. That is true. And I would say that the thing with service, now see, I'm going to say that there's service dogs, and then there's service dogs that were homeless. And when you're homeless, you do get more aggression from the dogs usually, because everybody is on edge. Everybody is waiting for that time where somebody is going to come and hurt you, and you are on constant edge. So your dogs are too. They have your back. So what they're doing is they can tell you feel threatened. They can tell that you have these feelings of being threatened. So they're always looking around you, looking for that threat. And you get used to feeling that way. And then that dog becomes your protector as well. And so there is a little bit of a cycle in that, I think.
Yeah, and I work with people who are not homeless that have all the means in the world, and when they're anxious, the biggest problem cases with aggression, it sort of feeds on itself. And the dog shows a little bit of aggression as a puppy, or when they first get the dog, and then the person reacts, and it just keeps circling around until the person is anticipating it all the time and shortening their leash and being ready and crossing the street because another dog is coming, and then the dog feeds off that energy, and they just get worse and worse. And so the reason I am changing the name of my business to Canine Therapy is because a lot of what I do is changing people and changing their feelings and empowering them to understand that by changing what they're doing and controlling their own feelings, that they are going to be able to change their dog's behavior. And we were working with a gentleman this past weekend with the 13-year-old pit bull, and we wanted to trim the dog's nails. And the guy was so anxious. I did succeed in trimming her nails, which desperately needed to be trimmed because they were so long they were curling over. But I only got the front paws. I didn't even attempt the back paws because the gentleman was so anxious and so upset that he was communicating that to his dog, and it wasn't worth it. If I could have gone back to him the next day, we could have done another session, but I had to stop because of the human involved.
Well, come here and show your nails. Come here.
Come here, Rowan. Papa.
She's like, I'm gonna grab my toy. Come here.
Come here, baby.
Right here.
Come on.
Show your nails.
Come here, baby.
Show your pretty nails. Come here. Right here.
Come on.
Okay. Come here.
I don't know. The light.
Turn.
The light's pretty dim, so I don't know if people can see it.
Rowan has pretty painted nails.
Yes, she does.
We have a girl time. See?
So we need to wrap this up pretty quick, but I want to remind everybody to go to Invisible People and type in Amanda Richer, and also just look at her YouTube channel. She does a lot of live sessions, sometimes while she's doing outreach. And then I just want to ask you about here in Seattle, some of the services that are available for people's pets and people who are homeless and their pets, and some of the big challenges that people have when they have a pet. I understand that a lot of times they're not welcome in certain shelters and things like that.
It's starting, the mindset is starting to change a little bit on that. However, you do have a lot of training is not a thing in a lot of circumstances, and so you do have a lot of aggressive dogs. You have a large population of dogs that have a low level of accountability in the owners. And when you get that many people where the dogs are not all socialized or all trained, it can cause a dog fight in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, these are people's family. And you can't expect them to go into a shelter and leave their dog chained up or give their dog away. It's really it's a harsh thing. And but I hope that the mindset is changing to where we give people the tools that they need to be able to have a healthy lives with their animals. That's our goal, I think, in all of it, is to give people the tools that they need to be able to be successful, so that we can allow animals in shelters, or we can allow animals in to where landlords know that it's not going to be an issue, because these dogs are needed, or these animals are needed.
And to your point, I mean, to extend on that, there's an awful lot of dogs that end up in shelters because people get kicked out of their home for whatever reason, where they had the dog, and then they have trouble finding housing where they will accept the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And
because there's a lot of limits. There's weight limits, there's breed restrictions, and the thing is on the breed restrictions, for example, they're not even using proper data.
Right.
When they're talking about aggressive dogs, it's the large breeds. But you cannot, that is so discriminatory, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not about that. It's about teaching the people how to interact with the beings that live with them, and making sure that everybody's in a safe, stable place.
Well, I mean, the pariah of the media for the last 20 years has been pit bulls. And before that, I think it was Dobermans, but
Mm-hmm.
then pit bulls suddenly took over. And I'm here to tell you that some of the nicest dogs are pit bulls, and they're gentle, and they're great retrievers and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's really a shame. So anyway, well, thank you all so much for coming. And
I appreciate it.
And spread the word. So,
and you can find Kate at
you can Google Canine Therapy. I have changed my name on Google, and my YouTube channel is now Canine Therapy Inc. And it still says Fast Pup Dog Training. My website still says Fast Pup, like run really fast, pup like puppy dog training. But I'm working on getting it switched over. So.
And I put that up in the description. And also up in the description, I will put ways that you can help out and help in this mission of inspiring others, doing good, getting life-saving supplies. There's so much, and this year is growing, and we are doing so much good, and it's so exciting, and I'm thrilled about it. So
you are especially, you're teaching people like me. But unfortunately, it's a humanitarian crisis, like you say. When the rent goes up by $100, I think Mark said, it displaces a certain percentage of people that can't. They were already spread to the limit, and they don't have another $100, and they lose their home. So anyway, it is a huge crisis, and the biggest thing is for people to see people that are on the streets living in tents as human beings, and understanding that there isn't anything to fear. And
it's a humanitarian crisis, not a morality crisis.
Exactly.
These are not.
Until that changes, we're not going to solve the homeless problem.
No.
Because of all the NIMBY mentality, they're not in my backyard.
But it's already in the backyard.
Yep.
It's already in the backyard. And the thing is, I don't care how you lock your home or keep your yard. It isn't going to save you when there's so many people on the streets that there's infectious disease running rampant. People's immune systems are lowered, or, everybody's piled into one place because the rest of the world is insurvivable because people keep doing what they're doing. These things all add up. And, we have to accept the fact that we need to do things now. It's time.
All right. So
Okay.
with that, thank you all for coming and
Happy
Rowan.
New Year. It's going to be a beautiful
Rowan.
New Year. Come here.
Say goodbye to everybody.
Can you say bye-bye? Take it.
Bye.
Take it. And now say bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
I have to figure out how to turn this off.
It goes over here to end stream.
End stream. Bye, everyone.
Have a happy New Year.